Welcome to the Rock is George podcast. I'm your host, George Dionne, and this is episode 94. Thank you for tuning in. Be sure to hit that subscribe button on YouTube or Spotify or Apple Music or on whichever platform you're listening to. And a special shout out to the loudest.com on the planet, knac.com. My guest for this episode is singer, guitarist, engineer, producer, mixer, Paul Sabu. Paul is considered one of the greats of AOR music. AOR is adult-oriented rock or album-oriented rock, but back in the 80s, we just called it hard rock or rock and roll. Over the last 30 years, he's released some fantastic albums in the genre, from Kid Glove to Heartbreak to Only Child, which is an album you absolutely have to check out. He's gone under different monikers over the years. He's currently released an album under the Sabu moniker through Frontiers Music called Banshee. It's out now. So many things happened throughout the career of Paul Sabu. I wish I had more time to talk to him about it, from his B-movie themes to his work behind the boards with Madonna and Alice Cooper and other heavyweights. So here's the one and only Paul Sabu. All right. Today we're talking about your latest album, came out on December 9th, called Banshee on Frontiers Music. But before we get to the album itself, if I knew absolutely nothing about Sabu, how would you describe your music to me?
Gee, just a straight ahead, rock vibe that I've been compared to Sammy Hagar and, White Snake-ish kind of thing. I mean, all my life. So I guess like that.
I think back in the day, we just called it rock and roll, and today they call it AOR, adult oriented rock or album.
Yeah, I'm not sure who coined that either.
I think it was Frontiers.
Yeah, probably.
So it's been a little while since you released an album. 2012 was the last Paul Sabu album, Bangkok Rules. So what brought about this new Sabu album?
Well, actually, Frontiers just happened to call me and ask me if I wanted to do a new album, and I said, "Yeah, okay." Because I've been doing for that time period. Everybody kind of started doing singles, so like I was just doing guest spots, or one songs here, two songs there, that kind of thing for a while, and then I got writing with Frankie Banali a lot, and we did several albums together. There's still actually a couple haven't come out. Just kind of that vibe. I didn't really think about it, honestly. I was having fun just, writing and working on stuff with everybody. Cause there was like 3 years of jive. Nobody could do anything. And the masks I actually liked because I didn't have to shave. Other than that, I mean, that was just kind of wanky, like in that time period, I hadn't really thought. So he called me right at the end of that. And Mario, Del Rizzo, he called me at the end of it and just asked me, he says, "You want to do a new album?" And I said, "Yeah, sure. That'd be great." So I submitted a few songs and they said, "Great. When I went to do the album, they said, "Oh, no, let's go back to the 80s. Just do, an 80s album." I'd been doing, a lot of Swedish kind of rock stuff, and they're, a little heavier. So I was saying, okay, I'll go back to the 80s. So, I submitted a few things, and, it eventually turned around to going back to the 80s because I pulled out my old amp, my old guitars, my old everything, from the 80s. It sounded more 80ish. So that's how it started.
And that's certainly how it came out. A great album. And you teamed up with Barry Sparks for this album. Do you guys have a long history together?
Yeah, pretty much. We've been in bands together, I think, since just after, maybe I was 25 or so when we started playing together. But we've been in and out of bands a lot. We happen to be good friends as well. He's got now he's got 6 kids, and he thinks he's a rabbit. He's just, the family is just wonderful. He's wonderful. And he's a very talented guy. He's just like one of those guys you get together and you just want to do stuff. And we had been working on 2 other projects prior to when Mario, called me and asked me to do that, I was actually working on with something with Barry, and I said, "Hey, Barry, you want to do this?" And he says, "Yeah, sure." So that's how Barry got involved in it.
Now, in keeping with the whole 80s thing and the whole, I guess I would call it Paul Sabu thing, the first single from the album is Candy, and you're certainly no stranger to naming songs after females. You had Angeline and you had Cassie. So who kind of inspired the song Candy?
Actually, none of my songs are inspired by anybody in general. I mean, I never like, have a person and then all of a sudden have to write a song about them. There's a thing where they say whoever writes the best love song wins. You try to write it about girls, or you try to write it about, females in general as far as the subject matter. But, when you start playing the riff and you just start going through the stuff, it's more like when you happen to sing something and it sounds kind of cool, you just kind of stay with it. So, it's like, I mean, even with Angeline, it's like, I was waiting, to try to come up with a name, you know what I mean? And Bob didn't work. So, so I mean, Angeline, came to mind, and Candy was the same kind of thing. It was like, oh, it's like you just want to find the right, name for the girl. And so, I wish, I don't even know if there is a girl named Candy with a K.
Absolutely. Are you planning another single from the album? I've only seen Candy so far.
Well, yeah, we're gonna shoot another video, barring any more hurricanes or natural disasters. This month we're shooting "Rock the House," which is really kind of a rocker from the, and we'll probably do that like, I don't know, 20th of January. I think they had it tentatively slot. Whether that's the next single, I have no idea. I mean, they've put out several songs, and everybody seems to be kind of acclimating to a different single. I don't know which actually is the next single. I just know the next video is that. So, like maybe it'll, turn into a single.
I noticed that you resurrected an old Quiet Riot song, and you had mentioned Frankie Banali before. You got Black Side of Water on the new Banshee album that you co-wrote with Frankie. So if you want to talk a little bit about the history of that song and it kind of being reborn on this album.
Originally, it was he wanted to write a new Quiet Riot album. So we started it. We had written, 10 songs to actually, start the, actually wrote a lot more, but I mean, finished up 10 songs. And Backside of Water was one of them. The person that's handling his estate is his wife is very nice, but she, really is pretty tight reined on everything. So she doesn't want, any of Frankie's stuff to come out without, Frankie's, on it or anything like that. So it wasn't like I could use Frankie's drums or, the actual parts that we did originally. So I just got it all again because I loved the song and I loved him and I loved, it was fun to do. And, and we never got any of these songs out. So I said, well, I'll do one of them.
Well, this song originally appeared on Quiet Riot 10, correct?
Yeah. That album was an odd album. They had just lost their other singer, got somebody in to sing it. It sounded kind of weird to me, but, and then they used some old tapes that they had laying around in their basements for 4 cuts. And, so he kind of put it out and pulled it, like I think it's in the same day. So it wasn't like, anybody ever heard it.
That's true. I didn't know the album existed until I looked it up on Wikipedia.
I don't even have a copy.
Obviously, you and Frankie had a working relationship as far as music is concerned, and you mentioned briefly at the beginning of this interview that you had a couple things in the can that haven't come out yet. Are they going to see the light of day at some point?
Yeah, if we can work some things out. It's just it's basically just the BS of who owns what and where and when and why and all that stuff. And it's really you get record companies and they want a piece of it. And this, it's like if nobody's willing to give in. Yeah, I mean it doesn't matter to me. I mean so much as like I just want the stuff out. But it's like the Banali estate basically kind of holds the reins on a lot of stuff. As far as because they won't agree to anything. So I'm not sure, exactly. I may end up just doing them all on the next albums. I got three more with them, with Frontiers, so I'll just scatter them in there.
I find it odd that in the 20 to 30 so on years Frontiers has been in business that they haven't been in the Paul Sabu business until 2022.
Yeah, honestly, I don't really know why, but there was somebody there who really didn't like me. I don't know why. I have no idea who it was. It goes on. I mean, I could guess all day, but I don't know. But it was like it wasn't a musical dislike. It was a personal dislike. So it never came up. And all of a sudden this person left, and I don't know who that person was that actually left. And then Mario called me and said, "Oh no, we always loved you." I said, "Oh, okay, well, all right, great."
Everybody seems to be getting in on the whole vinyl resurgence recently. The current Banshee album's only available on CD right now. Is there a possibility of seeing it on vinyl in the future?
Yeah, it said they said that they weren't going to put it out. This when I turned the album in, it was very, very sudden. It was like I mean, the release was sudden. I mean, I think I turned it in on the I don't know, the end of November, and it was going to be out the next month. And so I mean, I'm running down to shoot the video, and everything was so fast. I mean, I know we made the parts for the vinyl, and they said, okay, we'll go through, the first part of the thing and then release it. Then they started gathering, so many releases that they're putting out now. Then they also started expanding the company. But I mean, we're supposed to put vinyl out. Last thing I heard. So, I hope it's coming. I got a record player,
So maybe you could clear a little something up for me. You've gone under the moniker Sabu right now. You've gone under the moniker Paul Sabu, Kid Glove, Only Child. Is there a reason that you've had to go under these different monikers? Is that sort of a music industry thing too?
It's pretty much the music owners thing. I've been in, like, I don't know, 6, 7 albums that, we had pretty good names for everything. I mean, we sat up for long enough to, figure out names for the bands. And then all of a sudden, right at the last minute, they said, "Hey, we should just call the album Sabu, or it just should be Paul's." You know what I mean? It's like, and I'm going, "Oh, what about all these names?" Came up with. So, and it's like, I didn't want to argue with them. I mean, it's like, it's my boss. You know what I mean? And so I said, "Well, if you think that's best, so really, I honestly say it wasn't like I was being a wimp about it. I just didn't know what to do. I mean, they were pretty decisive in their presentation of, like, this is what we want to call it.
You also have several side projects that you've worked on in the last couple of years. One of my favorites is AOR with Frederic Slama. How'd you guys?
Oh, yeah, sure.
How'd you guys first hook up on that?
I think we hooked up about 12 years ago, and he's always used, like, these great players, and I've always been kind of interested because, like, there's always these great players on this, this guy's album, and I'm going, well, I wonder what the albums sound like. This is, like, back, I mean, 85, 87, whenever he started. I never knew. So eventually he ended up calling me up one day and asking me if I'd, sing a song for him. So I said, sure, send it over. So he does his stuff mostly with Tommy DeNander now. And, so, he sent the tracks over. I sent them back. We've been friends, actually, gotten to be good friends over those, 10 or 12 years, wherever it's been. And one day, I mean, he actually put a greatest hits album out of mine, and I go, have we done that many songs together? You know what I mean? He said, yeah. I said, gee, I didn't know that. So yeah, he's a wonderful guy, brilliant writer, just and he loves what he's doing, obviously, because he does a lot of
it. I also saw you working with a heavy metal band. You're working with them. You worked on a couple of them.
Yeah. Those guys are great. You ever hear them?
I have heard them. They're actually pretty good.
Oh, yeah, they're phenomenal. I mean, and all the guys in the band are great. they're great players, great nice guys, just and their theatrics is just it's like it's going to the best sci-fi movie and hearing great music that like I mean these guys like their rhythm riffs that you sing to are faster than most people can flat pick anything, and that's just the rhythm. You know what I mean? It's like the amazing kind of players that are in this band, and they come out with this unusual kind of thing that really works. I think it was last album that I really liked this one tune, and he had sampled it was Hellhounds, and he had sampled his dog, and he had the greatest samples on his dog I've ever heard. I mean, just really great. I said, "Oh, we got it. This is one of the, you just got to, it's got to come out." And it actually was never a single, but I thought it was one of my one of my favorites on there. But yeah, just a great bunch of guys. And I got to know Troy, who was a lead singer for it, with this band called Secret Society, which is nobody's supposed to be known in the band, but everybody knows him anyway. But Lincoln, fabulous guitar player, Swedish guy. I sang a lot of his stuff, and Troy was one of the guys that was on it, and I ended up singing backgrounds with Troy on it, and that's how we got to know each other, and we started working on on the them thing, and it was just a cool vibe. But a lot of things happen over in Sweden. Fatal Smile, I was working on those guys. I mean, and we seriously writing like every tune together. And they were the last band to like be touring with Dio, before when he died. They were Dio's band. I mean, like to open up for. In fact, it wasn't. They released the last album we did just right after he died, and then they broke up. They couldn't take it.
Sweden seems to be where American rock music is reborn right now.
Yeah, kind of. It's just they have it down, and I like I like the heavier stuff, and it's funny because when I was doing the Banshee album, anything I'd submit that was heavier, they'd say, oh, that's not quite that's a little too heavy, that's not quite Italy enough, and bring it back, so. Now they've got all these metal bands that are like, you're going, I could have done those songs, I think their spectrum is widening out quite a bit too.
Yeah, they've come along. I remember the very beginning of Frontiers, and they certainly have come a long way from kind of giving American acts, I would say, a second chance to be heard again, because the American labels stopped pushing them, and then now they're expanding into giving new acts kind of a platform they wouldn't have gotten any other way.
No. I mean, those guys are, to me, totally amazing, because they're not that big, I mean, it's not like, there's not like, floors and floors of individuals, I mean, it's like, there's, but somehow, I don't know what the spaghetti that they, has going, but they managed to like, really lock in together and have a plan. The one thing that they were really good at is actually not changing their plan. I mean, once it's set down as far as like what you're going to do and your release date and this and that and things like that, it doesn't change. I don't care what happens. It does not change. So it's probably the only way they can stay organized with all the, things that they've got. But it's what they've done is amazing. I think they got the biggest catalog in the world now.
Absolutely. And now that they hooked up with the Orchard and Sony, so that's only going to push them higher, I think.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's their main source of income. I mean, I think before I used to think, when I got, I'd see 500,000 downloads or, 500,000 streams. I mean, not downloads, and I think, man, I got like $300 for this, that just sucks. You know what I mean? For like that, and now, take a zero and add it on to that, as far as, I mean, on the, how much they pay, You know, they pay like a 10, 100 times less than they did then. So now, having streams like at $3, So, but you're going, maybe I should really be getting that $3 now. You know what I mean? Maybe I really need it because it's like all they're paying. You know, but it's just one of those things. I don't know how it adds up to be that much because you're gonna you see pages whenever you look at streaming reports or anything like that. I mean, there'll be like 40 or 50 pages and you'll like of nothing, of zeros, but it doesn't mean there's no money in it. It just means that it didn't make a penny back yet. I mean, it's like, and you're going, by the end of it, you're making 15 cents after like the paper's got to be more than that, if they use paper anymore. It's an unusual situation, I gotta say. Not one that I love.
I think what's changed now is that you put out music to sell the live show when you used to do the live shows to sell the music.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just a tremendous amount of, to me, like sales lost, you know what I mean? As far as your CD sales. I mean, whoever heard, if somebody told you 5 years ago that vinyl was going to outsell CDs, I mean, you'd have just laughed, and now you're going, oh, I got to get the vinyl. The CDs are selling anymore,
I'll tell you, you're closer to the industry than I am, but I have a feeling that the record labels will screw up the vinyl thing by raising the price so high. Everybody's going to be like, nope.
Yeah, probably. Hey, streaming's fine. I like the song. I like the song, so I'll stream it. I mean, I know, but I mean, there are, there's those guys who just know their turntables and they got them on like these 2-ton granite blocks and, with air blowers and stuff like that to take all the dust out of the air. And I mean, there's these fanatic guys that, will always buy vinyl, but for the general guy, just goes down to the store and says, hey, I think I'll buy a turntable. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm sure this, streaming has entered their mind.
Do you still have an opportunity to work on movie or TV soundtracks? You were like the B horror movie guy there for a little while.
Oh yeah, I was like the king of B's. You know what I mean? I was like, the thing that is they're not even making A's now. They stopped. If you ask me where they made movies, I wouldn't know. I mean, it used to be Hollywood. You know what I mean? It's like, but I don't know where Hollywood moved to. A lot of people who weren't into politics all of a sudden became politicians, and they all started, letting their stuff out. It's like how they felt and stuff like that. When it was much better when nobody knew shit. You know what I mean? Or, because you liked everybody more. Now there's, you just see them in a movie that's just great. And you just think the movie's great and everything else like that. And they start talking and they're just absolute morons. You know what I mean? It's like, and you're going, I would much rather not known this. You know what I mean? Just don't talk. So I'll just watch you in the movie, But I don't know where they make movies now. So I don't even know where the B movies are made. I mean, everybody seems to have a source, but I just don't know where it is.
Well, based on your past work with Hard Rock Zombies and Ghoulies 2 and Trick or Treat and Ghost Town, I feel like you could get a great slot at a horror movie convention because these things are like blowing up.
I realize like Hard Rock Zombies, as goofy as that movie is, I mean, as lame and as goofy as that movie is, the people I get letters constantly like, if it wasn't for Hard Rock Zombies, I couldn't get up in the morning and things like that. And these people are serious. And I'm going, my gosh, and do you realize it's in 17 languages? That's more than the Avengers. I mean, I'm going, what is with this? I mean, I'm thankful, it's nice and all, but I mean, it's nuts. I have no idea where anybody does anything anymore.
Well, I'm telling you got to get out to those horror conventions and meet those fans of Hard Rock Zombies.
I think you're right. I think, I mean, I used to laugh at it, but now I think, I'm seriously, these are my people.
Well, Paul, I've been a big fan of yours for a long, long time, and I'm glad we had the opportunity to talk. Those are all the questions I have for you today. The new album, Banshee, is out now on Frontiers Music. It's fantastic.
Well, thank you, George. I appreciate it, man. It was fun talking.
Once again, I want to thank Paul Sabu for coming on the Rock is George podcast. Be sure to check out his latest album, Banshee, out now on Frontiers Music. Head over to your favorite music streaming site. Check out the album. If you like what you hear, go out and buy a physical copy. Support the artist. For all things Paul Sabu, head over to his official website, paulsabu.com. Check out his extensive career. He's appeared on things that you might not have realized, and he's done some fantastic work throughout the years. I also want to thank Dustin Hardman of Hardman Promotions and Frontiers Music for making this interview possible. You've been great. I've been George Dionne. I'll see you again soon.